Shameen. Hi, good to see you.
Welcome
to Allbirds.
Brandy, thank you very much for sparing the time, and look forward to talking to you about different things relating to this company called Allbirds that you're heading the China operations for. But let's first start with Brandy. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up at this company.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Shameen. I mean, it's really great to have this opportunity to talk about like Allbirds and also exchange views. Like Brandy Yu, I'm currently the Managing Director of Allbirds China. So for the last 20 years, I've been working for multinational consumer product companies ranging from imported spirits like luxury, technology, and also sports brand. So that is kind of Ray-Ban, Absolut Vodka, Dyson, and Adidas. My functional background is more like digital transformation, brand marketing, product development, and also omnichannel commercial operation. I joined Allbirds in January 2021 when actually there was a timing our headquarters were considering exiting China market because we had huge profit loss. So for me, I really wanted to seize that opportunity of both turning around the business, and second, it's also about elevating myself to a role from those kind of functional VP or management role to a general management role. And what strikes me also is the value and purpose Allbirds is serving, because that inspires me to do better business, but meanwhile be a better person. I guess because of that obsession with China depths and also global vision, global perspective, which coincides with CEIBS value, is very consistent theme in my career path. I just want to be joining this like entrepreneurial speedboat and really unlock what is possible here, both for the business and also for myself. I'm interested in ski and golf and yoga Pilates in my leisure time, so that's myself, yeah.
Brandy, you moved from Adidas, that was probably your last job before you moved to Allbirds. Allbirds has an interesting name for a shoe company based in Silicon Valley with New Zealand roots. Tell us about Allbirds.
Yeah, I mean, everyone would be quite intrigued by the naming, right? So, I mean, the story comes back in 2016 when one of our co-founder, Tim Brown, teamed up with the other one, Joey Zwillinger. Tim Brown is an ex kind of football player, and Joey has been a kind of renewables expert and engineer. So they crafted this revolutionary kind of, let me think, like wool fabric specifically for footwear, which is like very disruptive in the industry. So really Allbirds is innovative, I would say, sustainable lifestyle brand. So reversing climate change through better business is our North Star. So really our mission, I mean, before we're talking about the product, it's really about helping like the planet and people to tread lighter. Everything was derived from natural material innovation and purposeful design, because our design is quite simple if you from like aesthetics point of view. When we started in 2016, we had kind of phenomenal kind of success. You seem to don't need another pair of shoes, but Allbirds is so distinctive in its value, in its offering, right? It's a natural material, and we continued material innovation after that, and also drive sustainable business practices in the whole value chain ecosystem, and help other businesses like our value chain partners to kind of follow this like carbon footprint emission reduction like mission. And in that regard, so we have achieved several milestones in our kind of journey. So we were certified as a benefit corporation, B Corp, at the very beginning. So it's a kind of like a certification credentialing those businesses who are balancing profitability and purpose, right? I think in 2019, we've already achieved like 100% carbon neutrality. So which is kind of like a very hot topic about 2021 in a more general kind of business world. In 2020, we start to kind of labeling all our product with carbon footprint number. So that is the first brand in the whole industry doing this. I think it's because like it's a consumer touch point where you can educate, right, and make people understand. Of course, the world now doesn't really have like a universal kind of carbon footprint calculation methodology, but we've been working with United Nations and also those consulting companies trying to develop something as per European standard, and also because we are one of the first batches doing this, so we're also trying to kind of integrate into local market and help them to elevate their best practices in this way. We launched our sustainability flight plan, which is more like our business kind of long-range plan, long-term plan, 5 years plan. So we nailed like how to get from kind of 100% carbon neutrality from net to net zero. So we have a very kind of trackable and transparent and measurable methodology to be able to see what we are moving for each year. So actually, our aim is to be net zero in carbon emission in 2030. We are already like 60% along that journey. So I think those are the milestones like for the brand. And of course, we have been actually quite aggressively expanding to international markets. But that, of course, have a lot of nuances associated and challenges, which I can talk like later.
So this is a company that does sustainable shoes at the moment, as this combination of a New Zealand American co-founder you were explaining. I think the word Allbirds refers to the New Zealand origins, right? And New Zealand, before the humans showed up, there were all birds. So you're going back to nature, trying to get natural ingredients. You mentioned merino wool. Now, what I also notice is that companies that place sustainability at the heart of their core strategy naturally have a global perspective. It seems therefore natural that China should have been part of the plans of Allbirds. But you also mentioned, and this is a relatively young company, right? Started about 2016. And you joined the company in January 2021. So that means they were already in China for a little while.
For less than 3 years.
Right, which means that from the get-go, they were thinking of global markets. China was part of this, but you step in and you also mentioned that there was a turnaround situation. That means things were not going well. You had to do things differently. So tell us about now the Allbirds China story.
I mean, China is always a very enticing market, I would say, for multinational companies, right? So majority of them are really kind of, you have like a very established brand at global level or at your headquarter, like domestic market, but then you're trying to build your China presence and China success, right? So, but the prerequisite is the brand is already known, the system or the operating mechanism is quite mature in those multinational. But in the Allbirds case, as you also referred to, we were very young. When I inherited, the business was not in a great shape because the people in the US would be skeptical. Is sustainability a too advanced concept to be introduced in the China market? Because the business and the profit is not telling them the positive answer. So for me, really, I think for the last 3 years, it's quite condensed. So the first year is really about change management and reset. And it's important to prove to global that there's a huge growth potential. Otherwise, that makes no sense to continue with this. And second year, because what we know or happened, it's about survival and stabilizing. And more importantly, seeking the route to profitability. And third year is this year. We had a lot of transformation going on at global level. Definitely will be impacted, right? So that's the overall kind of picture. But in terms of how we localize and build, I would say we are doing a pretty decent job for the last 3 years. We grow about 2.6 times like the business on the revenue side, and also we've grown from really huge profit loss like minus 30 kind of EBITDA to now we are nearly break even. So I think it's quite a plausible achievement. But how do we do that, right? With such a kind of a young brand, I think first you can't avoid that as a consumer product. It's all about your brand value positioning and who you are trying to kind of engage and selling your product to. I don't think we had really a very clear, like laser focused idea at headquarter level. We don't blame that because the US success comes so organic, right? The social phenomenon. So people come into our stores asking for products. We don't need to do much in that end, right? So it's socially viable, kind of every investors, kind of Hollywood stars and the politicians were wearing that. But in China, the landscape is so different. We have to do that due diligence to understand, to do a little bit of customer data mining, to understand who are our existing customers and who would be our potential customers, right? So we of course have like those early adopters, you know, people in the investors kind of arena, or people are die-hard kind of sustainability value advocates. So they will be like the top of pyramid kind of customers for us. But actually, who are the core targeted audiences representing the future scale of the business is where we want to localize. So we did that data mining and a lot of research, and we came up to the idea. Actually, our customers are kind of like from demographic and geographic, and also we're trying to understand their vocational background. So they are more like a 30, 45, you know, business professionals, well educated in kind of tier 1 and top tier 2 kind of cities. Those people who are prone to this new novel concept, and ultimately, because our product promise needs to be kind of comfortable and versatility, so which suits their lifestyle. So I think once you get to an understanding of who you are talking to, and everything else follows, right? Mm-hmm. So really for us, I think coming back to the value positioning, we talk about, as you said, sustainability is our kind of corporate DNA, is our commitment, but it's quite remote to a normal customer who are just buying a pair of shoes, right? But we cannot derail from that core. But when we talk to consumers, it needs to be something like relevant and engaging. So there are two parts. I think it's first helping us to raising awareness, and secondly, you have to bring that value to life, right? So we did like really build a very strong community around the brand, because those people stands for a range of like lifestyle that is close to eco-friendly. So we did like, especially using the store as a community base. We have our own kind of community ambassador who are not the kind of celebrity or KOL. They are more like a micro influencer. They have their own job. But for example, it's a Pilates kind of coach. It's a kind of mindfulness kind of coach, or nature photographer who can help us to bring our kind of loyal customers to watch bird, etc. So that is really helping people to bring kind of brand affinity. So we see similar people coming together and aggregate, right? So, and then they become a source of viral and the social kind of talkability, and help to adding more narratives to the brand.
And these are all local people? These
are all local people. But those people, for example, we have a female director, right? So who is shooting movies about nature versus kind of like human, and all those. The themes are consistent, but then you can actually engage with different micro influencers, and then
in the Chinese ecosystem.
In the Chinese
so you're trying to get the consistency with the global values, but connect with people locally.
And second, very importantly, we used kind of a partnership like a lot on product level and on marketing communication level. The reason why being we can't spend money lavishly given our P&L situation. So we have to be smart at how can we elevate our awareness very quickly. So for example, like 2 years ago, I think we had this cooperation with NIO, so it's an electrical car brand in China. So they are also very strategically focused on sustainable kind of ESG strategy. So they have a blue sky lab, which using the remaining parts of the car manufacturing process, they collaborate with designers or brands to create co-creation like product offerings dedicated to their own kind of new life users, which is about like 4, 5, or 6 million kind of app active users. So we co-engineered a product using the remaining part of the seatbelt embedded to our shoes, and this project has been done just in 10 months, which normally the process of creating a new product takes about like 20 months. So when we launched that together with their Blue Sky Project PR launch with other kind of partners like Parsons School and some architects, it creates a blast in the market because like the PR and the media are interested and the users. Very interestingly, we found actually a lot of like new car owners are also kind of Allbirds kind of shoe users. So that actually verifies our understanding of who would be our core target audiences. And I think it's more important that the users really like the marriage of these two brands because the value they represent for and the product promise and also this communication the way how they engage with consumers is something that they love. I mean, that's on the product level. The coffee we brought this morning, Manner, is another example of marketing communication level partnership. So we used to our Soul was manufactured, derived from sugarcane. So, and you know, Manner's audience is much younger than ours. But we do want to bring those younger consumers to the bigger pool to help them, even they are not consuming our product, but we want them to understand Allbirds is the kind of thought leader in the sustainability area. So we will also work with them, like they have a much broader kind of store presence in China. So that also helps us to gain on board a lot of landlords. So they even come to us, oh, would you always like to open a store in our shopping mall, etc. So it's very interesting, like during this collaboration, you have a lot of like maybe unexpected side benefit you can gain on that, yeah. And secondly, I think doing business in China is quite complex. So we have to admit that, right? A lot of nuances, yeah. So the omni-channel kind of strategy is very important. When we talk about omni-channel in US or UK, Japan, they only need to have like a .com kind of official sites, right? And have a couple of stores to support that. But here, when we talk about digital, I mean, the ecosystem is evolving so quickly. We have to do those traditional kind of Tmall and Jingdong e-commerce platform. Every platform is, the gameplay is different, but we are also trying to be in pace or in tune with what is emerging. For example, like the social commerce, like the Red, 小红书. We cannot just ignore the trend, but doesn't mean we have to co-op with them. For example, like Pinduoduo.com, right? You have to be very stay sensitive to stay in tune with what is going on in the market, and then to identify how does that potentially could integrate into a strategy. So if I have like huge excess in inventory kind of removal needs, maybe there's something I can explore, right? So that's something I think is quite different. And on the retail side, because China, the normal kind of occupancy is really kind of expensive of this shopping mall, right? This kind of shopping mall. It represents normally like 30–40% of your kind of net sales. So how can you be profitable? The lease normally is only 1 year or 2 years, meaning like you have to rebuild the store or move the store in another 2 years. But in global, a store lease can last about 5 to 10 years, right? So profitability is not really an issue for them. But for us, we have to strive for that profitability. And we cannot afford to have bigger kind of stores like 1,000 square meters. We don't have enough inventory. We don't have the luxury to build their stores. But for each single store, the store you are seeing here is what we build a local for local. So this is something that is actually being copied by European and also Southeast Asia, where they are going to engage some distributors using our concept, because this is more like a scalable and profitable kind of format. So that's the second part of really a omni-channel strategy that is capitalizing the business ecosystem in China, which is quite different from headquarters. Yeah,
that's very fascinating. Not only are you making changes in China, but then these practices can be taken to other parts.
And I think the third one of localizing is really about sustainability, kind of thought leadership, right? So this is very the hard part, I would say. I think it's who we are. we have to do it, although not so heavily towards consumer, because we are using more innovative, eco-friendly kind of narratives to engage with consumer. But on the other side, we have to reinforce our leadership in that arena in China market as well. So we work with authority bodies like China, I think it's Textile Industry Association's Social Responsibility Group, to help them to define the product life cycle, carbon emission, kind of how to calculate that, how to set up like industry standard. So to support them, also help us to be in tune with the gameplay in China. We'll have to transfer that knowledge to them to help them to elevate the industry practice. And also we work with media partners and also some third-party consultant like Roland Berger, a consulting firm, and WWD, a very fashion kind of authority media. So we launched a China Sustainable Fashion white paper. So that serves as source of the whole industry partners they can refer to, right? And also we're trying to explore some upstream innovation capabilities, like new materials, because China, you know, is having very sophisticated and advanced supply chain. So in terms of material like innovation, we can actually try to bridge that innovation capabilities to our global R&D. So that's pretty much like three bigger buckets where we're trying to localizing the brands and fuel the engine of growth. Yeah.
Absolutely fascinating. And I'm also very grateful, Brandy, that you shared these perspectives and even more details of what you've been doing in a way that we've been able to write a teaching case now about Allbirds China, where you're the protagonist. And so we have you joining the company in January 2021. And you actually went through 2 full years based in China, right? It wasn't possible to travel to headquarters. And then we end the case in early 2023, where you're about to board a flight and finally go to headquarters. And it would be fascinating to hear what's been happening since.
We went public in 2021, I think in November. So this January would be the 5th quarter, like after we went listed. Unfortunately, I mean, as per what we all know, the pandemic, the Ukrainian war, the inflation. So as a retail business, as a D2C business, it's not easy to kind of like grow profitably in this period of time. And especially we've been expanding, branching out to so many international markets, right, for the last kind of 4 or 5 years. We were not really delivering to the investors' expectation. So the market valuation, the stock price are telling what they think about us. Change is inevitable. So as I said, like maybe I started the change management 3 years ago in China, but they started the change management in a more thorough manner kind of 2 years after. So that is beginning of this year. Really, we have to make a transformation of the corporates, because when we started, we said we are balancing profit and purpose. But it seems like we are doing pretty well in the purpose and sustainability path, but not so well in the profit path, right? As a business, we have to be having sustainable profit in order to really kind of have stakeholders' interests fully represented. So we started to investigate like several areas for this whole transformation. I think the first and the foremost is on the product and merchandising strategy. You know, as a consumer product, I mean, this is the foundation of everything. We tend to kind of trying to explore many kind of arenas, also including kind of technical performance, which is not necessarily our core strength. It's not in our DNA. It's not our key kind of innovation capability. It's associated with another kind of sports athletic kind of credential. But we spend a lot of time kind of exploring products around that. So that involves supply chain resources, kind of team resources around that. So we realized that we are a kind of premium lifestyle footwear that we deliver comfort and versatility, but not really in the lifestyle and active arena. We can be active, but it's more kind of like a versatile lifestyle active, not really going to a more technical performance. So we have to come back to our core franchise. Like when we started kind of 6-7 years ago, didn't really change as a core franchise after 5-6 years. It's very uncommon in the industry. While in the industry, a lot of other competitors or players, their kind of innovation products represent about 30% of their new styles can represent 30% of their business each year, while we are much kind of like behind that. So we really have to strengthen the muscle of innovation, but not derailing from our core franchise. It's about iteration and elevation and celebrate, and trying to make it more evolving. So we are actually launching the Wurunner second generation very soon in January, like in China. Hopefully that would be serving kind of those our core customers kind of interests and really bring some newness to them. That will be a big part, so that would be associated with what kind of like talents we are getting into the organization, and also ties into our distribution kind of strategy. So because if we want to have a bigger store, we need to have a wider assortment, right? So that's something we hope to kind of change in this kind of next 18 months. We've already hired some great chief design officer recently. So that is working very integratedly with the commercial team and the planning team and the marketing team. So that's the bigger piece we are working on. And secondly is on this whole international go-to-market model. We are revisiting that. A lot of like footwear or lifestyle brands, when they came to China, they started with a distributor, right? Because as we said, the complexity of operation, because the geographic market nuances and the regulatory kind of like barrier, etc. So, but we are doing the tougher kind of way, the more difficult, challenging way we're doing on our own. Meaning we went to about like 9 countries, all with our own warehouse, our own system, our own people and our own stores. So that's a huge kind of like cost to our business. So we are seeing that how can we reduce that cost base to be more profitable. By earlier last month, we've been already worked with Canadian and also Korean distributors to transfer our business to their hands, because by leveraging their networking and resource and capabilities that can help us to scale more profitably, right? So that's a bigger part, and we are also exploring what some alternative kind of China scaling opportunities as well from some partnership perspective. Yeah, so that's the second bigger piece. I think the third piece is about when we talk about transformation, it's also kind of like about skill set and people. So because people who joined us 6-7 years ago, they may be the people who can help the business from 0 to 1, and how can you do the next stage? The kind of skill set and talent is quite different, right? So we have to respect that. So at the very beginning, we have a lot of like people from, you know, Silicon Valley, you know, investors, financing, and Ivy League kind of graduates who are super smart. And now we are having more kind of solid footwear industry background people who know the product, know the supply chain, and know the market, know the consumers. So I think I'm more confident like with this change, this will help us a lot. Yeah. Of course, I pick up just 3 kind of parts, but there are other kind of manufacturing kind of base change, etc., to help with the cost base. I mean, for example, in China, we actually been able to grow about 25% on our revenue, but also clear inventory by 50%. So we just want to move to next year with a clear kind of grow base. When we kind of accommodate and welcoming all those new product innovations. So I think this will take a while, because in the United States, they have to compromise a little bit of top line growth to have a profitable kind of bottom line. So they compromise that net sales, but they want to reduce the cost base and clear the inventory. But for us, the story is slightly different. We are much healthier in that front. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So 2023 was a year for those of us in China where we finally reconnected with the world, started traveling. And when you started traveling, it seems as if the company itself has had this huge further transformation that's ongoing, as you explained very clearly, at the global level with the product portfolio, at the China level with your new distributor strategy, but also many other bits and pieces. So going forward, I wish you all success with continuing to navigate this. In fact, talking about travel in 2023, I finally went back to the UK and you alerted me to the fact that Selfridges in London has the only pair of Allbirds zero carbon, net zero shoes, which will go into the market in 2024. Is that still on track?
We are still kind of like looking at the commercial viability of that pair of shoes. I think it did embody the kind of like a pinnacle kind of innovation of what we are doing as a sustainable brand, as we were using the negative kind of carbon kind of wool to produce that. But do we take that product on the commercial level and for selling? I think it's another story. We're still like exploring that financial viability.
Interesting. So that's sort of a moonshot, right? It represents
that kind of visionary, visionary kind of,
But it also shows, you know, that the fact of the matter is you always have to balance these competing pressures for doing well for the planet,
and
fulfilling purpose, but also being profitable, which to me is ultimately the role of business, right?
Totally.
Government has its role, non-profits have their role, and then business has its role. And I think business does best when it is pursuing profit and seeking to fulfill purpose. So Brandy, as we wrap up, you are a graduate of the CEIBS Global Executive MBA program. And in fact, when you started, you were working with a multinational, Adidas. Now you're with Allbirds, an entrepreneurial Silicon Valley company in China. To me, that represents the importance of adaptation. For you personally, from a multinational to a startup situation, but also for a Western company adapting to China. What are some of your learnings and reflections that others might be able to gain insight from?
I joined Allbirds because I saw it as an entrepreneurial speedboat, right? I want this. I want to ride with the boat, and maybe it's gonna be like strong kind of wind and waves, etc. But I like that, so it's very personal. My point is, you don't have to be an entrepreneur to be at your best. Actually, being a professional manager is also quite good, I would say. You have to be like surviving and thriving in this kind of entrepreneurial environment versus a multinational company, which represents system, structure, and resource. While here, it's the totally opposite, right? It's the speed, it's the agility, it's the decision making, not at the top level, but at maybe a manager level. So it's quite a different culture. You have to, before you kind of dive into that, you have to really reflect, is it a culture fit for yourself? You can be a very excellent professional manager and really contribute like your value, your knowledge to the corporation. But if you want to adapt and dive into this, like you have to be constantly asking yourself, like, is it something like, is the risk associated with it you can bear? Is the kind of suffering with lack of resources and educating global with all the common senses something you are patient with? Are you willing to fail quickly? So those are the questions you have to ask. And I think you cannot get a right answer. Sometimes you just have to get your hands dirty, but be really conscious that I think it's a balance of mindset and skill set. Because when I joined Allbirds, I inherited a team with really fantastic kind of mindset. They are sustainable kind of die-hard fans. They love the brand, they talk about the brand, but they don't have the right skill set to help the brand to localize and thrive here, right? So sometimes once you have a lot of people from multinationals, they have the right knowledge and skill set and experience like behind them. But how can they adapt to this environment? And because sometimes they see things for granted, like the structure, the system, the resource. I think first you have to understand what kind of person yourself is. That's quite important. When I talk about like fail quickly, it's also another quite different kind of mindset, right? If I'm now an MD, but I also have like a marketing manager or kind of a retail operation manager, my ask for them is also they have to make decisions where they don't necessarily need to be in the multinational companies. And I give them some license and autonomy, but of course I will protect if anything bad happens, and I have to take that accountability. But they have to stretch and really push their boundaries, capture this opportunity to be at their best. So I think this is quite different experience. Even in Adidas, I was in a kind of more internal transformation. You know, I was doing digital transformation. There are a lot of like barrier and baggage there, but I think the final fulfilling piece, you feel good about being able to make an impact. If you have the mindset of making an impact and having that agility to navigate scarcity of resource, I think this could be good for you. Yeah.
Absolutely fascinating, Brandy. What I'm hearing is the importance of the entrepreneurial mindset.
Yeah.
And when we talk about this, often we talk about things like the importance of being proactive, of being innovative, and willing to take risk, accept risk. Don't take blind risk, manage it. And I think a lot of what you're talking about is that. But the other very interesting thing you said is you need to combine mindset with skill set.
Yes.
I think that's a terrific insight.
Yeah. Because previously, although you are a VP or very senior role, it's still quite a long distance from really the center of decision making. But now we are very decentralized. Even our founder, we can talk very honestly about what is wrong, what is could be possibly better, and can I try this? So I think this is kind of like a democracy and the decentralization, which I really like. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Brandy, you've had a fascinating career, which clearly got transformed during your CEIBS Gemba journey.
I can just had this privilege of just reapplying what I learned at the class into what I'm operating on daily basis. Like currently I'm applying the strategic negotiation with the external kind of partnership. And when I joined, it's about organizational behavior. So I'm just like picking some small examples to explain like how I feel very grateful to have the chance to be in CEIBS and learning from kind of Professor Shameen and all other great faculties and my classmates. Yeah, appreciate that.
That's just great to hear. Thank you so much again, Brandy.
Thank you.
All the very best.